if you spent any time looking at modern fantasy, maybe browsing online or even in a real bookstore, you've probably noticed, well, just how many subgenres there are now. It's kind of exploded. And one that's really dominating things is game literature, or lit RPG. Lots of people call it that. It's all built around game mechanics, leveling, stats, that whole progression thing that can be really satisfying. But navigating all that, it can be tough, right? Especially when every new book seems like the next big thing. So that's why we're here. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some source material. Specifically, we're looking at a review of Thorne Ravensong's novel, I Got Reincarnated into a World and Became a Grinding God. Quite a title. Yeah. Our mission today isn't just to give you the summary. We want to quickly unpack what makes this book tick, the appeal, the mechanics, and some of the maybe surprising deeper themes. We want you to get the full picture of why this one's making waves without having to read the whole review yourself.
And it's definitely making waves. It's a really interesting example of what's happening in fantasy right now. What Ravensong does so well, I think, is blend that core fantasy desire, pure escapism into this amazing new world. He blends that with the kind of addictive, goal-driven structure you get from RPGs. It's not just a story with game elements. The narrative is actually built on quantifiable progress, optimization, which really makes it a standout game-lit title and worth taking a closer look at how it's put together.
Okay, yeah, let's start right there. The structure. Who is this protagonist, Elias?
Right.
And what's the central hook, the thing that grabs you?
Right, so Elias, in his first life, back in our world, he was apparently a really, really good gamer, exceptionally talented. And the setup is pretty classic isekai, as you'd expect from the title. Tragic accident, boom, he's reborn. But he finds himself in this high fantasy world called Eldoria. And the key thing is he doesn't just arrive with a gamer mindset. He brings almost a whole new operating system to this world.
A new operating system. We're turbocharged, right? Because this is where the review gets specific. Elias gets this massive advantage, almost like a cosmic cheat code from the very beginning. A 100 times XP multiplier.
Exactly. 100 times.
That's just a staggering number. It immediately sets the tone, doesn't it? You know what kind of story this is going to be, or you think you do.
Well, yeah, it sets an expectation for speed, for power.
But hang on, let's pause on that multiplier for a second.
Yeah.
Because if the main character is instantly 100 times better at gaining experience than anyone else, doesn't that kind of kill the tension? I mean, isn't it just a matter of time? Where's the struggle?
That's a fair question, and it's something the review really digs into. The answer apparently isn't in external threats, not initially anyway. It's about his motivation and maybe the consequences. See, the source material stresses that Elias isn't on your typical hero's journey. He's not immediately trying to, save the kingdom or defeat the big bad evil guy, though apparently those things do come up later.
Okay, so what is driving him then?
It's described as this pure, almost frightening, insatiable desire for growth. Growth in his skills, his power, his sheer stature in this new world, and his ultimate goal, actual godhood.
Godhood, right.
So that 100x multiplier, it doesn't remove the conflict, it just changes it. The question isn't if he'll get powerful, but what he'll sacrifice along the way. And maybe who he has to step on during that super fast climb to the top.
Ah, okay, that makes a lot more sense. It shifts the stakes entirely. So connecting that back, the book is using gaming culture, that drive to optimize, to min-max, to hit the next level. It's using that as a way to explore ambition itself.
Exactly.
Makes you think about what that kind of relentless striving actually means, whether you're looking at a character sheet or, your own life.
Precisely. The goal isn't just to win the game, it's total domination, total mastery. The multiplier just speeds everything up, which actually makes every choice, every interaction potentially carry more weight.
Okay, got it. So, moving on from Elias's core mechanic. Since his power gain is so extreme, the world itself has to be pretty compelling to keep you hooked, right? Let's talk about Eldoria and Ravensong's writing craft in general. How does he make this feel immersive, not just like reading stats?
Yeah, the review highlights that. It says Ravensong masterfully blends the familiar with the fantastical, which sounds a bit like marketing speak, but...
Yeah. What does it mean in practice?
Well, it means you get the familiar RPG stuff that game-lit fans expect. Dungeons, classes, monsters you can grind for levels, all that. But he layers this really rich, detailed lore on top. The history of Eldoria matters. The review mentions ruins aren't just loot spots. They're tied to ancient gods, forgotten histories. Gives the exploration meaning beyond just getting XP.
That detail about the lore feels important. That's the difference between just a game system and a world, right?
Absolutely.
So it appeals to both sides. The hardcore RPG fans who like the systems and maybe more general fantasy readers who want that rich setting.
That seems to be the goal, and according to the review, he pulls it off. And the writing itself helps. The prose apparently strokes a really good balance. It's accessible, which it needs to be when you're throwing stats around.
Right.
But it's also vivid enough to build the world properly.
Right.
The review specifically mentioned it avoids that trap of just feeling like reading an inventory list with some dialogue tacked on. It flows, even with the numbers.
Okay, what about the pacing? The title has grinding God in it. How does it stop the story from just becoming, well, a repetitive grind?
That's another area the review praised, actually. It highlights a unique rhythm to the narrative. You get these moments of really intense, focused grinding. We see Elias just ruthlessly exploiting that multiplier.
Makes sense.
But then these are deliberately contrasted with quieter, more introspective scenes. These pauses are really important, the review suggests. They let Elias and you, the reader, kind of process the changes. Think about the choices he's making, the sheer scale of the power he's accumulating. It gives the rapid growth actual weight.
So it's not just speed for speed's sake.
Exactly. It feels earned in a weird way, even with the cheat code.
And the action, the
Yeah.
fights, are they just my number is bigger than your number?
Apparently not. The review mentions thoughtful choreography in the battles.
What does that look like?
It seems tied to his gamer background again. Strategy. Because he levels so fast, he's often fighting things that technically should be way too strong for him based on his core stats or time in the world.
Oh, okay.
So the fights aren't just about raw power, they involve using the environment smartly, exploiting weaknesses he might know about, maybe from game knowledge carried over or even hints of future sight, the review implies, and rapidly using his newly gained high-level skills with real precision. It's tactical.
So the strategy keeps it interesting, stops it from being just overwhelming power washing everything away.
Yeah, it prevents that feeling of, well, of course he won. There's thought involved.
That makes sense. It keeps you invested even when the power curve is, frankly, kind of ridiculous.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about what elevates this beyond just cool mechanics and world building, the emotional stuff, beyond the leveling. What does the review say about, relationships, ambition, the deeper themes?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The review is clear. Elias isn't just a power gamer avatar. He does develop as a character. He apparently struggles, believably, with the kind of isolation that comes from being so powerful, so different from everyone else. And the relationships are complex. Allies, rivals, enemies. They all genuinely shape his journey. It's not just him against the world.
Can we dig into that a bit more, that tension between ambition and relationships? I mean, if your goal is literal godhood, how do things like friendship or alliances even stay relevant? Seems like they just get in the way.
Well, that's one of the core tensions the book explores, according to the source. The drive for power often feels like a lonely path, right? But Ravensong seems to emphasize that even someone aiming for godhood, especially one grinding their way up, still needs people. Alliances are crucial. Gaining godhood isn't just about racking up XP solo, it's also about gaining influence, gathering resources, building trust.
And maybe breaking that trust sometime.
Oh, absolutely. The review hints at that too. Perseverance is a theme, but so is the treachery that often comes with seeking ultimate power. These relationships, these alliances and rivalries, they test Elias. The review mentions moments where he has to choose. Maximize his personal gain, his XP, or maybe protect an ally who's in trouble.
Forcing those morally gray choices.
Exactly. Those complex relationships, not just the level dings, are what give the story depth beyond simple wish fulfillment.
It sounds like the grinding itself becomes less about the game mechanic and more about the process of becoming something more, or maybe something else, and dealing with the price of that.
Yes, precisely. The stats serve the story of transformation.
It gives the power fantasy some teeth, some consequence.
Yeah, it merges the gamelit structure with those classic fantasy themes. Power, corruption, the need for connection. Even if that connection is complicated or transactional, the review suggests Elias's growth and his struggles kind of mirror the challenges of any rapid advancement, really. It makes it relatable despite the fantasy setting.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. Thinking about you, the listener, who might be wondering whether to pick this up, I got reincarnated into a world, and became a grinding god, really for it, based on this review.
The target audience seems pretty clear.
Yeah, if you love big adventures in, really imaginative world, if you're someone who's sunk hours, maybe too many hours, into perfecting a character build in an RPG.
Guilty.
Huh. Yeah. And if you specifically enjoy gamelit, like you appreciate the details of leveling systems, the stats, that competitive drive, then this sounds like a must-read.
Definitely seems geared towards that crowd.
But the review also says it's recommended for people who like character-driven stories, too. Right? Stories about ambition, friendship under pressure, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it suggests it delivers on both fronts, the system and the character arcs, which isn't always easy to do.
True. But there's a flip side, right? A caveat.
There is. And it's important. This probably isn't going to be for everyone. If you really don't like game mechanics in your fantasy, like at all, if you find stat blocks or level notifications distracting, this might not be your cup of tea.
Yeah, you kind of have to embrace the game part of gameplay.
Exactly. And also, if you're looking for a purely straightforward hero, someone driven solely by, goodness and light, Elias's journey sounds more complex than that. The focus on grinding and the sometimes pragmatic or even harsh choices he makes, that's core to the appeal for its intended audience, but it might put others off.
So know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But even with that said, the final verdict from the review is pretty strong, wasn't it?
Overwhelmingly positive, yeah. Called it an invigorating and fulfilling raid. Rated it 4 out of 5 stars, so highly recommended if you're in that target audience.
A strong endorsement for fans of the genre.
So I guess the main takeaway is that Ravensong seems to have really nailed this blend. He built this exciting adventure in Eldoria, gave Elias this incredibly powerful starting point, but then used it to fuel a genuinely challenging journey.
It's about power, but also about self-discovery, with good writing, decent lore, and complicated relationships holding it all together.
Sounds like a compelling package. Okay, so here's a final thought, something for you to maybe chew on after listening to this. If that relentless drive for power, like Elias has, comes purely from this insatiable desire for growth, not from a sense of duty or justice or fighting some big evil, does that 100x multiplier just make him a hero faster, or does it maybe accelerate something else entirely, like a faster path to becoming isolated or morally complex or something beyond just hero?
That's a good question. What does hyper-efficiency do to the soul?
Exactly. It's an interesting angle the source material seems to raise, that contrast between the cold mechanics of grinding and the messy reality of ambition. Worth thinking about. All right, that's our deep dive for today into the review of I Got Reincarnated into a World and Became a Grinding God. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.